Okay, Michael, great to be with you.
Okay, Ken.
We had the privilege of working together for a few years while you were at San Francisco State. And so it's a real pleasure to welcome you back and just thank you for giving some time to me and our students here in the Holistic Health Studies program. So thank you for your willingness to be here.
Thank you, Ken. I want to say first that I love you and I honor you for your work. And I honor you for the program that you did at State and the course that we taught there on art and healing, which is actually spirituality, creativity, and healing, which is actually finding out who you are and what you're supposed to be doing here. So,
well, we had a good time and I think our students benefited a lot, and therefore having you back is a real treat. And you're such a character. You've had quite a life, a series of chapters. And, can you tell us just a little bit about, just to get people acquainted with who you are and help us know who you are, about your path as a physician and a healer?
okay, I'm a MD physician. I went to medical school and internship. And then before that, I had a skill set that I put together, which I think is important for you students. I used to talk about this. Steve Jobs did a lecture at Stanford that is a classic, which they all should watch, where basically he says, if you do exactly what you love, follow your bliss, and have fearlessness in each moment, that's the skill set you need to find out who you are. And his example was he quit college. He studied typography just by auditing. And that's why all computers that we have now have typefaces and basically all of this. So right now, each of the students in this class has put together a skill set that they need for their life of who it was. So by the time I got to medical school, I had done Alan Watts' teachings on Buddhism. I had worked with, as a still photographer, I had put together a whole set of skill sets that I didn't know were important to me at that time. But I went to medical school, and at college at Brown, I went to Brown first. I took a course in creative writing, which is why I write books. Again, I didn't know why. And on yoga, immortality, and freedom, which is incorporation of animism into Hindu mountain cults. So by the time when I was a doctor in and I graduated, I was sent to Vietnam on a battleship, and then they cut that post and sent me to um, National Institutes of Health research in Kuru in New Guinea, and they cut that post and sent me to the Hopi Indian Reservation. So now I was a doctor in the Hopi Indian Res, and all of my old interests in Indians and animism and spirits came out. And one day I had a person dying in the room I was treating him in, and everything I did didn't work. So I called the Native American medicine man in, and he came in with rattles and beads and shakers. And the people were very afraid because they were very expensive, the family of the woman. And I said, I'll pay for this out of public health. And then he did a whole bunch of rattling, and the woman sat up straight up in bed. She was comatose and dying. And I had IVs in and the whole deal. Sat up, looked at him, and then left the hospital the next morning. And in the interchange with him, he kind of looked at me, and basically in spirit space and vision space, all of my life is basically spent in dreams and visions, hearing voices and sounds. And all of you are in the same way. When you close your eyes, you're seeing a vision. You may not be quieting yourself enough to do it with the noise, cacophony around you, but that's actually what's going on, is the visions of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing on earth are coming to you. So basically he said, quit allopathic medicine, get the hell out of there, off the Indian reservation, go to Bolinas, California, where I went, and build your own house and become a still photographer. So I did that. And then in the middle of that, a renegade from Silver Mind Control came and basically taught us spirit guides, spirit animals, how to contact that, how to do psychic diagnosis, how to treat. And then Rolling Thunder, who was a famous shaman, came and he taught me a bunch of stuff. And basically, at the end of that whole thing, I had a decision to make. Was I going to continue with allopathic medicine, or was I going to shift to what at that time I viewed as guided imagery? And I made a clear decision, stopped allopathic medicine pretty much totally, did guided imagery. And then uh, in one of my guided imagery shamanism sessions with a patient, they brought in art. And I looked at it and I said, "What's this?" And they said, "Oh, this is," the person was near death. And they basically said, "This is the way the universe looks." And it was an Alex Gray painting of lightning around a person and other worlds. And I just suddenly something snapped in me. And I said, "Oh, okay, art is guided imagery made visible. Art is God's voice, goddess's voice made audible." Okay. And then I took some acid with my my sister's husband. We went up to the top of a mountain and I ran down. We made poles that were wings, and I ran down the mountain with the poles as wings. And I was very disappointed that I didn't actually turn into a eagle because I thought that was what was supposed to happen, a physical eagle like in Carlos Castaneda. But what I did turn into was a giant space and time opened. I turned into a eagle falling to the earth, making love with another eagle, which is how eagles actually do it. They go to the top of the spirals and they make love landing and pull out at the bottom. But what the vision was in my mind was art and healing are one, and you need to devote the rest of your life to art and healing.
Mm.
So I set up a program funded by Rockefeller Foundation to invite artist healers from all over the world who are healing themselves, others, community, and the earth. And we all got together and did it. And that was that's how I got to kind of where I am.
Wow, that's quite a series of
It's
stories.
what
Quite a
it's
life.
about is that who you are for your class, who you are right now,
Mhm.
is the pieces of who you're going to become when you can see. And when the goddess, the mythology, your ancestors, whatever it is that speaks to you, and no one's clear on what that is. No one understands where these voices come from. Other planets, extraterrestrials, inside you, God. When these voices come and tell you who you are and what you're supposed to be doing here, then it all comes together. So that's who you guys are right now.
So to pay attention to your own process, to be fully attentive and listening to yourself as you go, and trust the
You know,
process.
that you got to quiet down first because the cacophony prevents you from hearing the voices.
Mhm.
Then I guess second is to invite the voices to come into you and to actually try to listen to them,
Mm.
and then to manifest them on earth, which is the easiest way at that point for me was making art. And in the course that we taught together for years and years and years,
Right.
and I taught it at San Francisco State in your course. It was called Art and Healing or Creativity, Spirituality, and Healthcare. I taught it at JFK in Berkeley Arts and Consciousness program, and I taught it at University of Florida. And now the course, which came from Arts and Healing at San Francisco State, is now completely free as a Coursera course called Art and Healing online, and the links for it are around. But
Let's make sure we tap into that at the end, but just want to make sure that everybody gets a sense of you. So over your process, and you find an interesting life, you've written over 20 books, right? And
yeah, I've written, I I needed to earn money because I never charged a patient because Rolling Thunder basically said to me, "You don't do that." And also, what's the guy in West Virginia who did the hospital?
um,
Uh,
yeah,
you know, he told me, "You don't charge for this shit," basically. And I had two children and a large dog, and we lived in the country. So I had to feed ourselves. So I thought writing books, since I was creative writing major at
mhm,
university, all the pieces that I put together would be useful. And I wrote a book called Well Body Book in 1972,
Mhm.
which was the first self-help medical book. But it
Yeah.
also was a book that united spiritual health care with allopathic medicine, which was, I was told at that point, that was my job on earth. When I asked, what am I doing here? They said, you're a bridge between allopathic medicine and people who do that, which is self-care medicine,
Mhm.
basically, how to take care of yourself, which
Yeah.
now is everything that you guys do in holistic medicine. It's diet, exercise, prayer, love, support groups, and it's body work. It's all the things that go into that. But in 1972, this didn't exist.
Right.
So we essentially invented holistic medicine at that point. But it also is based on completely spiritual, uh, uh, talking to the doctor within and finding out what you needed to heal.
Well,
And
and in your latest book, the one you wrote to typify the course at San Francisco State, you talk about awakening the inner artist, and with that, the inner healer, and integrating them. Can you?
what that is these are all from visions. Everything I write, I receive from spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I try my best to remember it. I wake up in the middle of the night and write it down so I can write it in the morning. And then, so basically it's stuff that comes to me from something, and it's invited in. So um, every day now I do a Facebook post in the morning, which is this. But art and healing is um, what one of these things that we got was everybody is an artist. Okay, when you were 3 years old, the first thing you did was draw pictures, or you danced. Okay, and everyone has an inner healer. So everyone has an artist within, which is extinguished now by a critic who told you couldn't do it. Okay, now you get rid of that critic. All of these were guided image exercises we did in your class. So you go back to the inner artist within. Then you go to the inner healer within, who is the one that heals. When you get a broken bone, you don't heal it, and a doctor doesn't heal it. Your body heals it. It brings in white blood cells, it brings in new bone cells. They set it, but your body heals it. And so you got an inner artist within, an inner healer within. And then in a magical process that I'm not defining, the inner artist and the inner healer come together, and you become the artist healer that you are. And I put on my Facebook post today and from my blog uh, a 3-minute guided imagery for you to do that. That's actually accessible. And again, I work with my class completely through guided imagery. I used to. Now I work in a whole different set of ways with people, depending. I have people that I'm working with all over the earth, in Australia, in Nepal, and in that are doing healings with me. And each one is different, and each one is in vision space.
Well,
So
I think some people may even still be struggling with the word art. So when you talk of art, what do you mean by art?
in your class, we figured it out. I figured everything out in your class. Your class was my teacher. I'm also a bear dancer with the Chumash peoples in Southern California, which is a very important part of my life, maybe half my life or more. And
Wow.
we started with, when I saw that art and healing were one like lovers and fell down as eagles, uh, we did these conferences on, we invited artist healers to tell us what they thought it was. And basically, at that point, we started with art is visual arts, which is photography, paintings, blah, blah, blah. It's music, which is listening to music, writing music, uh, something like that. It's dance, which is dancing, uh, movement. It's poetry, it's word, which is theater and poetry. All of them put together is ceremony, not performance art. And that's the way we started. But then in your class, we rapidly realized it was cooking, it was cleaning your backyard, it was washing babies if you were a mother. It was anything that healed parts of you. Intent, the kicker here is that you made an intention to heal. You made a decision and an intention. So once you made that intention to heal, you're inviting in what is going to heal you. And if it's an art form, since we were teaching art and healing, you're inviting one of those things to do something, and you're actually going to do it. And no one's ever done this before. When we taught the course, half of the students were music grad students, half of the students were in healthcare, pre-nursing, med, psychology, whatever. They never met and they never used art to heal. So
Well,
it was a real interesting experience.
it always is each time. And it seems like each of the senses, that the visual arts, the audible arts, the movement arts, so it very sensory, it seems like becoming fully present through one or more of those vehicles, and then allowing creativity to.
Exactly. The
Thank you.
presence comes, what part of the art making process is that when you make art, you have to concentrate. And you've got a sheet of paper and you've got to put something on it, and that takes full concentration, and you disappear. You merge with the paper and it becomes presence. Okay. And that takes you also out of depression, out of whatever's suffering, post-traumatic stress, whatever's going on, you pulled right out. And then the next step is you're actually manifesting something. Something appears on that piece of paper that wasn't there before. And what appears is exactly what you need to heal. And you trust it and you go with it. And there's a long process that we have in our book and on the website about the 5 steps. What were the 5 steps of healing with art, which was going elsewhere, merging with spirit, trusting yourself, feeling healing energy, merging with the transcendence. And these were things we did big studies on grad students at University of Florida to find out these steps. It's all kind of, it's really wonderful and fun. And now without any words, because now you don't need, it's a process that doesn't need words. Strangely enough, the book that Mary Lane and I did called Healing with the Arts, which was an exact transcription of the course that we taught at San Francisco State and at JFK and University of Florida. Pretty close, with guided imagery exercises and everything. But the name of the publisher was Beyond Words, which is really interesting. They're the people who published it, because all of this stuff is actually beyond words.
But this must be very challenging. You created a program at the University of Florida and the Arts and Medicine program, right?
Yes.
And universities are typically very based on objective thought, on reductive science, on really thinking about the form-defined world and critical thinking. So you're talking about bringing in a real complement to that, and somehow you've helped give birth to the Arts and Medicine program that's now around the whole country and the whole world, perhaps, in hospitals and nurses in particular.
Right now, there probably isn't a hospital in the whole country that doesn't use art and healing.
But isn't it challenging for people to allow in transformative knowing in a world that's so typically objectified?
Yeah, but there are huge, gigantic numbers of studies on every art, every form, on music and healing, on harp in end of life, on there's so much research, but also the hospitals that put them in had tremendous difference in patient satisfaction. Because I mean, a typical story that'd be, we were at University of Florida in the child leukemia unit, and the arts and medicine program, which was set up there, it's always set up by a visionary. You set it up at San Francisco State. At UCSF, it was set up by an oncologist who brought Cindy Perlis in there to set up pretty much the best program in the country. And these are visionaries who understand that they need another dimension to healing beyond what they're doing. They don't necessarily know why, but they see it. And like the story at University of Florida, there's a child with leukemia who's completely shut down. They won't talk to anyone. Their parents are crying and looking out of the window, and their drug side effects are terrible. They're in pain. And the artist in residence, because there's 5 artists in residence at that program that we set up, walks in the room and says, I'm the artist. Do you want to make art? And the person says no. And the mother says, get out of the room. And the artist, who was a dancer at that story, takes a scarf and goes like this. And the child's eyes light up and suddenly they're elsewhere. And then the child does this. And then the dancer says to the child, um, what would you like to do now? And the child says, oh, I want to smash down all the buildings um, and create a whole new world with new buildings. And then the mother comes in and they make little buildings. And the next thing you know, the child doesn't need any pain meds. They're relating to the staff. All of the parameters of care improve. And this is so clear that when this happens in the programs, uh, everybody needs this program. So that's what's going on in the world right now.
Wow.
But this is one part of it, because art and healing, what I used to say when I used to think things were separate in the world, is art heals yourself. Okay. Physical, mental, spiritual, personal growth. Others, your mother, your grandmother who died, who hasn't had a ceremony, children with Down syndrome, community, which could mean gay people who are not represented, transgender, whatever healing needs to take place in that community. The earth, which is rivers, environment, peace, war, the stars, and the universe. And now, because I now believe everything's one, and there is only one. There's only the unmanifest and love. The making of art does it all by itself without you doing anything. All you have to do is
Show up.
show up and do anything. What I used to tell people in my class is one line. Okay, because they all say I can't do it from the inner critic. I say one line. And then they say, what next? And I say, follow the line. This is like last night I watched the Disney Winnie the Pooh movie of this man when Christopher Robin grew up, and then he had to go back in to find himself. He had to go back into Pooh. But Pooh always says the philosophy of Pooh, the Zen of Pooh, which is do nothing, show up, and everything will happen by itself. He said the quote was something like, if you do nothing, that's exactly what you need to do. And it's so, but for you as a student in a class in the midst of a shutdown, a Zoom meeting, a war, nuclear threats, this is an impossible situation for you to solve academically. So again, like an art and healing program, you need to come in and solve it in some creative way that's never been done before. And that's your soul. That's who you are in spirit space. That's who you are when you look inward and find out the bubbles that are under you that are popping. And it's art is one form of it. Right now, it's yeah, anyway.
Well, so if I hear you right, and tell me if I missed this, but for our post-pandemic era that's beginning to emerge, maybe we can begin to play with this new world that we all need to create. And everyone knows that the world isn't working at some level. It's full of issues. And this whole focus of being simply form defined and using critical thought has not saved us. So maybe we need to find the more creative elements of ourselves. Yeah.
For me right now, every person has to, I tell a couple of stories associated with it. One was I was at a 4-day bear dance. I danced in a bear skin. I transform into a bear in a sweat lodge in visionary space. We come into the ring. The ring is protected by tobacco. These are all Native Americans who know the story. The story is what needs to leave you, illness, some kind of illness, leaves and goes to the bear skin, not me, I'm just carrying it. And then men with eagle wings swoop it into the fire and it goes to creator and it's released. It's basically in Jungian terms, or psychological terms, it's a release. But the part is that bear is doing the healing. I'm not doing the healing. And one of the bears got up at the end of the 4-day and we're all in a circle and we're about to go home. And many, many, many people have been healed. More than 300, 400 people have probably come into the healing. It's completely free and there's no words spoken. They give tobacco to the chief. They don't say what's wrong with them or anything. And the bears come and do the healing and the release. And he got up and he said, when you enter this story here, you come with a gift. And the gift is who you are and what you're supposed to do here to heal all realms out of time and space. And that gift, we don't have to question who the gift comes from, your ancestors, first, the first primordial beings. And all through your life, as you're raised, the gift is clouded by what your parents have told you, personality, what you're supposed to be doing, prejudices, racisms, the culture, going to war. And you need to do a ceremony that's pure, where you give it to get that gift back. And this bear dance, when you come in the circle and release what needs to go and bring in what needs to come, that's you finding your gift. So your job as a two-legged on earth is to find out who you are, what your gift is, and do it to heal all realms, I believe. That's my strong personal belief. And that's who I am. That's what I live. That's, if you can ask a question and get it in a sentence, you can have a blank page and just write. And it may not come, it may come in 500 pieces of art. It may come in one vision. I believe right now, due to a set of experiences that I've had, that there's no time, no space, and no separation, that we're all one consciousness and everything takes place simultaneously. And this is kind of a tool for, it's a super simplification tool, because if, and it's a vision, it's an experience. I didn't invent this. I didn't know it was Buddhist teachings from this particular Buddha in this century. This woman I work with online sends me, oh, this is this goddess who told you this. Okay. And the more that things are revealed to you, they're revealed everywhere at once. That's what synchronicity is, when a bunch of things happen at the same time that aren't logically connected. So for you, you look for synchronicity in your life. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry, Ken.
No, it's all good. Well, it's a real pleasure, and I could see just hearing you talk about your life and your read of things. But maybe just to finish up, I think a lot of people in this subjectively defined world, this form-defined world that we have, may struggle with this opening a bit. And in particular, I'm thinking healthcare. So where is healthcare going? Maybe just our final focus. You mentioned the work of Gene Watson, and I think Patch Adams, who you were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Right? So
Gene Watson is a really good example. She's a nurse theorist from University of Colorado, chaired professor. And nursing, unlike doctors, has actually theorists. And every nursing student has to take a theory. But what she did is she basically had the vision that I'm talking about, that we're all one, we're energy evolved spirituality. And she came in, and now she's got hundreds, if not thousands, of hospitals all over the world, where she comes in and trains the entire nursing staff to actually do this. So if you go into any of the hospitals, I think Stanford is one of her hospitals. I think not, maybe Kaiser, all the Kaiser hospitals in the Bay Area are her hospitals. The nurse comes in the room and she's a spiritual being. She's looking at you as energy. She's looking at the whole thing as evolution. She's using art. She's listening to you. That is medical care of the next century. And you can go online, you can Google her, you can see her quote of the day. And she's the most advanced, active spiritual person changing healthcare right now. But Dean Ornish, who does what's franchised healthcare, he was Clinton's cardiologist. He does love, support, diet, exercise, yoga, community. That's what healing is in the 21st century. And that can reverse heart disease, reverse prostate cancer. The rest of it, allopathic medicine is going to go on. And in America, of course, it's collapsed. The billing system, the entire thing, the whole thing doesn't work at all. But it's there. And when I work with a cancer patient or end of life, if a surgery is going to help them, I recommend that surgery. If a chemotherapy is going to
course.
help, but you do the rest of it too.
Mhm.
So, and you guys will invent the next medicine. When you go into the space that I'm telling you to go into, you will become the next medicine. You will see what it is and do it. And it's a combination of everything you've ever breathed, every heartbeat in your life.
Well, thank you, Michael. Real
Okay.
treat. Thank you for sharing your time and your life wisdom with us.
I love you, brother, and I want to thank all your students for being there. And it's not a chance that you're with Ken right now. And this moment of your lives is a gift. This is the ceremony to take you where you want to go and who you are, and just feel it, just experience it. There's no answer. You don't need a written answer. You don't want one. Okay, brother. Love you. Right. I'm gonna leave.
Okay.
Leave
Thanks,
meeting.
Michael.